A Brexit U-turn, as EU citizens who miss a residency deadline are allowed to stay in the UK. We're going to read into this from The Independent, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Independent with the headline of a Brexit U-turn, as EU citizens who miss residency deadline are allowed to stay in the UK. Campaigners warn that most who missed the deadline will still need legal support and bend the knee for settled status. Guys, while you're here as well, before I give my initial thoughts, if you can hit the like button and share this across social media so other people are aware of this video. So yes, Brexit. Well, not particularly Brexit, but more about the EU citizens. So many EU citizens, there are a case of EU citizens who were not aware of the scheme that allowed them to remain in the UK as settled status in the UK. Not everyone was given that information. Now I remember when as we were coming up to as time was passed after the 2016 referendum, I know one or two colleagues and friends of mine who are EU citizens, and I remember telling them about, like, you need to apply for the settlement scheme and then make sure you guys are covered, and they were like, yeah, they're covered. And luckily for them, they got it all sorted, and now they're settled. There's no issues whatsoever with them being in the UK. But it wasn't really, was this really shouted about enough for EU citizens? Was enough people in the country being told about this? And I think that's a fair question we need to ask, we need to say. Was the media and newspapers highlighting this to, highlighting this to citizens in the UK, EU citizens who have been a part of the United Kingdom, who have worked and contributed to our country for a long time? How are they notified and being told of this? And I think that's a question that needs to be asked here, because I don't think it's right that those who have been here and have contributed to our economy and to our society should be kicked out like that simply because of Brexit, pretty much. Now, obviously, there may be a few that may take advantage of it, but I think the vast majority of EU citizens, if I'm absolutely honest with you guys, I don't think intentionally would want to not fill in these forms and not just to cover themselves to be here. But honestly, I just think I think it would have been wrong, in my opinion, to kind of force people out against their will, sort of thing, on this matter. That's just my thoughts on it anyway. So Rishi Sunak's government has made a U-turn on residency rights of EU citizens, which makes it easier for them to stay in the UK. The new guidance from the Home Office said it will no longer block Europeans making late applications for settled status if they were unaware of the Brexit scheme. But campaigners have warned that most of those who missed the 2021 deadline will still need legal support to make a case for settled status, calling on the government to make its guidance more explicit. They need to make it as clear as possible for EU citizens. Like I've said, the vast majority, I'm pretty sure that the majority of them, some were not aware of the Brexit scheme, and rightfully so. But my concern is that there will be some who still to this day are not aware of it and could find themselves in hot water. The 3 million campaign group said the Home Office would still expect people to beg, bend the knee and show remorse for not knowing about the scheme. The Home Office said in August it would not allow people to make a late application for the EU settlement scheme if they had applied in error for a residency card or mistakenly relied on a residency card. The thing is that these things, they need to be, it's not just a case of how many of these EU citizens did the government send emails to, or send letters in their post, or notify them. How many of them did they do? I think that's a very good question. Not just a case of the media highlighting it. How many did they go out of their way to notify people that they need to do this when Brexit happened and when this is when the settlement scheme was set up? How many did they go out of their way to make sure every single EU citizen in the United Kingdom was aware of this? That is the question that I have for you in the comment section. So I think that's really important. The residency card, no longer valid after the June 2021 deadline for the EU settlement scheme, have caused a series of problems for Europeans living in Britain after Brexit. The 3 Million group, which advocates for the rights of EU citizens, said people waiting on a decision on a settled status have had problems in applying for jobs, moving house, and in some cases getting in and out of the country. The Independent had previously spoken to EU nationals who have been held up at airports since Brexit because they haven't been unable to provide physical proof of their residency in the UK. Lack of awareness in the EU settlement scheme was not disclosed to be good enough grounds for a late application, the Home Office had said. But in new guidance published this week, the department said late applications from people who were previously valid residency cards who were unaware of the rules are now reasonable grounds for an application after their deadline. Andrea Dontry, the 3 Million Group's interim co-chief executive, said she was glad to see this change after months of pressure, but she warned the guidance of caseworkers should be made more explicit. We're disappointed the Home Office still does not accept the having of EEA permanent residence cards in itself is sufficient evidence for reasonable grounds for applying late. If they have a situation at the airport about this, there should be a very simple case of the border force pressuring the EU citizens, if they haven't already applied, to crack on with it. That's what I think should be happening. If you're going in and out of the country on that, the citizens need to be told, hey, if you actually have status here in the UK, and you need to show it. Basically, there needs to be applied pressure on those who are not doing it. I don't think there is people intentionally avoiding it, but I do think that not enough is being said about it, like I already said. She added, people are expected to beg, bend the knee and show remorse for not knowing. We are concerned that this will lead to only people with access to legal advice to be able to get their application through. Ms. Dontry said most people who have yet to sort out their settled status would likely need legal support in dealing with the Home Office. And the changes only applies to people who were granted permanent residency cards before Brexit, campaigners have made clear. There are also many others who were not granted these permanent residency cards, but may still have rights under the Brexit withdrawal agreement, and vulnerabilities have prevented them from making time applications, said Ms. Dontry. She added, they are now very likely to be refused if they do not have access legal advice. Meanwhile, the Republic of Ireland has formally lodged its lawsuit against the UK government in the European Court of Human Rights over its offer of immunity for the Troubles era crimes. We don't need to talk. I don't think we're going to cover that. I think that seems to be all there is, guys. We're not going to cover that scheme. So one of my thoughts, really. I mean, it's just like I've said about the EU citizens. Like, here's the thing. Like, how much information was put out there? How much information was told about them? Were they getting letters in there? Were they getting letters? Were they getting emails? Were these citizens being were they being told? Did we have enough advertisement out there around for EU citizens? Or these are questions that need to be asked. And if the answer is yes, if your answer is yes, that all this stuff happened, that they had letters, they had emails, they had advertisements, and they were promoting it all over the media, telling the EU citizens, hey, you need to do this sort of thing, then yeah, questions need to be asked about why they didn't apply during the time. Now, of course, there are some cases where some people generally did not know, and they should not have to be punished for it. Yes, there are cases, of course, where some may intentionally avoid it, but there are cases, obviously, of people who are unintentionally did not know and they had to apply and they weren't aware of it. And that doesn't mean that they should be basically forced to beg for their forced to be on their knees begging for forgiveness either. So EU citizens are still human beings, just like everybody else. They need to have their rights heard. So their case it's a case by case basis is the right thing I would say. Now, I'm not saying every single EU citizen should be granted access. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that because I know that's exactly what some people in the comment section are thinking right now. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that every single case should be looked at carefully and taken with deep consideration before jumping to conclusions on each one. And if their story is compelling and it seems reasonable, if they have a compelling story and a reason for that, then maybe perhaps they should be given a chance to settle. But if some don't have a reasonable story and it doesn't seem to add up, then obviously then they should not be given that access. So each case is different, but I do think there needs to be a little bit more time with this for EU citizens. But the guidance needs to be clear from the government, and we already talked about the how ridiculous the Home Office are running things at the moment. So the fact that could be mistakes from the Home Office, this should not surprise anyone, to say the least, guys. But what do you think? What do you guys think about EU citizens missing the residency deadline? Do you think it's right that they be given enough opportunity? Maybe some of you are thinking, no, they should be just sent back just like asylum seekers. I know that's probably what some of you are probably thinking. But hey, you're entitled to your opinion. Let me know what you guys honestly think in the comments section down below. If you can, before you go, hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me, you can do so by joining the YouTube membership for as little as 99p. Or you can get additional content on my Patreon. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.